The machines had been screaming for hours. Flat, sharp beeps echoed through the private ICU as doctors rushed in and out, their faces growing heavier with every passing minute. On the bed lay Ethan Hale, a 7-year-old boy with pale skin and tiny fingers clenched tightly around a stuffed bear. Outside the glass wall stood his father, Richard Hale, a billionaire who owned skyscrapers, companies, and influence across the world. And yet, in this moment, he was powerless. 17 of the best doctors money could buy had tried everything. Specialists flown in from New York, London, and Toronto. Advanced machines, rare medications, endless tests. Still, Ethan's condition kept worsening. One doctor finally whispered the words no parent should ever hear. We're running out of options. Richard sank into a chair, burying his face in his hands. All his wealth, all his success, none of it could save his son. Before we continue this powerful story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Thirds of Kindness, where every story reminds us that kindness still matters. Hours passed. The ICU floor grew quiet, heavy with defeat. That's when Lena arrived. Lena was a poor waitress from the hospital cafeteria. She worked double shifts to support her sick mother and younger brother. Every night, after closing, she brought leftover soup to the security guards and cleaned tables no one noticed. She wasn't supposed to be anywhere near the ICU, but she'd been asked to deliver a tray of tea for the exhausted staff. As she walked past Ethan's room, she slowed down. Something felt wrong. She wasn't a doctor. She didn't have a degree. But she had spent years caring for her younger brother, who suffered from a rare breathing disorder. Long nights in public hospitals had taught her how to notice small things others ignored. Lena glanced through the glass again. Ethan's chest rose unevenly. His lips had a faint bluish tint, not dramatic, but noticeable if you knew what to look for. And his stuffed bear, its arm was pressed tightly against the tubing near his neck. Her heart skipped. She hesitated. Who was she to say anything? 17 doctors were inside. Specialists, experts. But then she remembered her brother, how one nurse's small observation had once saved his life. Lena took a breath and stepped forward. "Excuse me," she said softly to a passing doctor. "I'm sorry, but I think the tube might be partially blocked, and he's favoring one side when he breathes." The doctor barely looked at her. "Miss, please leave this area." Humiliated, Lena turned to go. But Richard Hale had heard her. He looked up, desperation burning in his eyes. "What?" he said. "What did you notice?" Lena swallowed hard. Her voice shook, but she spoke clearly. "His breathing pattern reminds me of my brother's. It's not just the illness. Something external might be restricting airflow." Silence filled the hallway. One doctor scoffed, another sighed. But a young resident paused and looked again. They adjusted the tubing, removed the stuffed bear, ran a focused scan. Then suddenly, everything changed. Heart rate stabilizing. Oxygen levels rising. Wait, this wasn't showing earlier. Within minutes, Ethan's breathing eased. Color returned to his lips. The alarms softened into steady, hopeful beeps. The room froze. 17 doctors stared at the monitor in disbelief. Richard's legs gave out. He dropped to his knees, not in despair this time, but in relief. Tears streamed down his face as he whispered, "My son." Lena stood in the corner, shaking, unsure whether she'd done something wrong or something miraculous. A senior doctor finally turned to her. His voice was quiet. "You may have just saved his life." Days later, Ethan woke up. His first words were soft but clear. "Daddy." The entire hospital seemed to breathe again. News spread quickly, but Richard made sure Lena's name wasn't forgotten. He found her in the cafeteria, wiping tables like nothing had happened. "You saw what we missed," he said. "Why?" Lena smiled gently. "Because I've been invisible my whole life. When you're invisible, you learn to observe." Richard offered her money, more than she had ever imagined. She refused. Instead, she asked for something else. Help for families who couldn't afford care. Better training for support staff. A small scholarship for people like her, who had compassion, even without credentials. Moved beyond words, Richard agreed. That day marked a turning point, not just for Ethan, but for an entire hospital system. Ethan fully recovered. And Lena. She went on to study healthcare advocacy, becoming a voice for those who were never heard. This story reminds us of something powerful. Sometimes, the greatest miracles don't come from titles, wealth, or expertise, but from kindness, attention, and the courage to speak up. Because even in a world filled with experts, it's often the most humble heart that saves the day. And if kindness can save one child, imagine what it can do for the world.